Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? Oh yeah, look at the seriousness in those eyes. You heard me and Nader talk about it a couple times. Could a civil war happen? It looks like Sauter's pretty serious about what's going on. And although he's not said it outright, he's made it perfectly clear that he's ready to take things to the next level. You guys let me know what you think. Before we get started, do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. If you're thinking about buying gold and silver, go check out our friends over that Money Metals Exchange. A lot of you have been going there recently, and I appreciate that. A lot of you have switched over your IRAs and your 401ks. Look, like I said, it's never too late. Anyways, if you're thinking about buying gold and silver, go to our friends at Money Metals Exchange. The link is down below in the description. If you spend more than $100, use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and you will get a free half ounce of silver. It says Sauter asked the judiciary to dissolve the Iraqi parliament and the president of the republic to set a date for the elections. Well, I wouldn't say so much that he's asking as much as he's demanding. There's a big difference between the two. Said on Wednesday, the leader of the Sauterist movement asked the judiciary authorities to work on dissolving the Iraqi parliament within a maximum period of next week. So we do have a deadline now. Before is talk. Sauter is saying 1 week to dissolve the parliament. Now, what I want to know is what happens after that week. Urging at the same time the president of the Republic of Iraq, Saleh, to set a date for early legislative elections in the country. Sauter said in a tweet, what kills me about this is it's how many politicians, and not just in Iraq, but literally around the world, use Twitter to communicate to their constituents. Crazy. Anyways, Sauter said in a tweet, someone may say the dissolution of the parliament needs to hold a parliament session to dissolve itself. No. There are no blocks that adhere to quotas and continue to corruption and will not succumb to the people's demands to dissolve parliament. But I say the dissolution of parliament is not limited with that. What? That's what he said. Let's go over that again. Someone may say the dissolution of the parliament needs to hold a parliament session to dissolve itself. Well, we know Maliki said, well, we have to have a parliament session in order for us to dissolve the parliament. So that's Sauter saying, no, it doesn't. It says, no, there are blocks that adhere to quotas and continue to corruption and will not succumb to the people's demands. What he's doing is he's responding to Maliki, who came out and did a press conference and said, you know, we can't dissolve the parliament because you have to have a session. And Sauter's not falling for that. He added, from here, I address my words to the competent judicial authorities. Yeah, he knows he is walking lightly there and that he is not being honest because he's pissed at the judiciary because a lot of those people are friends with Maliki, especially the president of the Supreme Judiciary Council. Notice how he specifically is addressing the president, the big dog, because that's Maliki's friend. Hoping that they correct the course, especially after the end of the brief constitutional deadlines and others for Parliament by choosing the President of the Republic and assigning a Prime Minister to form a government stakes, as well as the national or independent majority, and away from the old grim faces that despair, including the people. And if they are not corrupt, he's talking about the Supreme Court now, if they are not corrupt, they are either deficient or deficient. Okay, why twice? I don't know. Yes, I direct my words to the Iraqi judiciary, from which we still hope for good despite the political and security pressures it is subjected to and leaks from here and there, provided that it dissolves Parliament after those constitutional violations above, within a period not exceeding the end of next week, and graciously assigning the President of the Republic to set a date for early elections subject to several conditions that we will announce later. So he's not even negotiating. He's saying, I'm going to tell you what I want. So how far is this going to go? I told you, at this rate, it's closer to civil war than people think. He continued, during this, the revolutionaries will continue their sit-in and their revolution. May God reward them with the best reward, and they will have another position if the people fail again. And we ask all the revolutionaries to resign Sauter's bloc and other deputies and all lovers of the homeland to submit official lawsuits to the federal courts and through legal means and through the centralization of the committee. It is clear that the elimination of the stake is at stake. So just so you guys know, these articles come across translated. They're not usually in English. So when they get posted on this website, they're done in English. The funny thing is, I've spoken to people from Iraq and I said, is this how they talk? To go, yeah, actually it is how they talk. So it sometimes is it comes across different than, of course, we speak. He said, anyways, and we hope that it will take into account the interests of the people and not afraid of the pressure, as I am sure that many judges are with the people and with reform. So, look, this is happening everywhere. Everywhere. Over in Britain, they ousted Boris Johnson. And I'm not so sure they got a better person, but we'll see. New Zealand, Australia, they're getting rid of all of these people who wanted to do the lockdowns, who treated people like prisoners. You're seeing a huge battle here in the United States. So to get into Sauter's demands just a little bit more, we'll take a look at this article here. Iraq Shiite clerk behind parliament sit-in steps up demands. So we know that he has given them an alternative. An influential Shiite cleric in Iraq whose supporters earlier this month stormed the parliament in Baghdad and have since held a sit-in outside the building, step up his demands and issue a veiled threat of renewed violence. So Sauter said in the Twitter, we know what he said, the judiciary must dissolve the parliament, and he's given them 1 week. He says Sauter has previously demanded that the parliament be dissolved and that early elections are held, but this time he set a deadline. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This time is different. He actually set a deadline. Experts are divided on whether Sauter has any legal bias for his demands. I think at this point Sauter is beyond the law. What I mean by that is he's not counting on the law to be upheld. If you have a president of the Supreme Judiciary Courts that's friends with Maliki, that's a problem. How unbiased is this guy really going to be? So at this moment, I don't think it matters to Sauter whether something is legal or not. He's saying, as we the people, this is what we demand. He won the largest share of seats in the election last October, but failed to form a majority government that excluded his Iran-aligned rivals. Sauter called his followers revolutionaries and said they would take another position if his demands were not met, hinting at a possible escalation in protests. The judiciary stated previously it does not have the constitutional right to dissolve parliament and that only lawmakers can vote to dissolve the legislature. Because the parliament has exceeded the constitutional timeline for forming a government following the October elections, what happens next is not clear. Yeah, that's what I mean. Talk about being stuck between a rock and a hard place. You can't get anything achieved because you have to have parliament. You can't have parliament because you have political blocks blocking it. The government's not being formed. The people, their constituents, are who feel the effects of what's going on. Sauter's political rivals in the coordination framework and alliance of Iran-backed parties said earlier that the parliament would have to convene to dissolve itself. Last week, thousands of Sauter followers stormed the heavily fortified Green Zone, which houses Iraq's parliament, government buildings, and foreign embassies. They overran and occupied the parliament, after which all sessions of the assembly were canceled until further notice. The takeover also effectively halted efforts by the coordinated framework to try and form the next government after Sauter failed to do so. Iraq's political impasse, now in its 10th month, is the longest in the country since the 2003 U.S.-led invasion reset the political order. and their takeover of Parliament, Sauder followers stopped short of overrunning the Judiciary Council building next door, an act that many considered a coup, as the judiciary is the highest legal authority in the country. When Sauder was the prime minister, he wanted to turn into the dictator. He made it known. He wanted to be just like Saddam Hussein. He didn't even hide it. If you remember, I mentioned in one of the videos that one of his targets that was in his way was the person responsible for the Iraqi Dinar exchange rate, which was Dr. Shabibi. Dr. Shabibi was out of the country at the time when Maliki had changed the exchange rate. And they blamed it, of course, on Shabibi, and then said that he was corrupt and they want him arrested in the whole 9 yards. But this was the attempt by Maliki to consolidate all the powers under the prime minister and eventually just run Iraq, is what he was trying to do. And he thought he would have the support of Iran. Things didn't work out quite that way. Here he is again trying to get back into power because he's up there in age and he's hoping for one last chance to be the big dog over there in the Middle East. I don't think it's going to happen. That man right there will probably stop him. Now, look, Sauder's not always been a good friend to the United States, but I do support the fact that he's concerned about his people first and foremost. You got to respect that. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. I look forward to your comments down below. That's it for now. I'm out.